Hey friends, this is episode 148. Welcome back to Thrive Online Healing Podcast. So we're going to talk about this one's going to be how to get your doctor to listen. Um, I feel like I'm an expert on this point. A lot of times, um, sometimes doctors don't listen and they don't answer our questions. They have their idea and what they think's going on, and like they just or they don't have time and they're not answering your question in a way that feels acceptable and clear to you. So we wanted to talk about like basically how to take your power back and get what you come for. I love that saying, like I'm going to get what I come for, or I'm going to get the answers I need. um my biggest I have two big things. It takes perseverance on your part. Like you have to be committed to like, I'm going to get the answer no matter what. No matter who I have to go to, no matter how many people I have to talk to, I am committed to getting my answer and advocating for myself, period. Because no one else is going to do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second is get organized. Right? Like if you want to be taken seriously, get organized. And I think the most empowering thing I ever did was I'm a nerd, so I know everybody's not like this, but I took all my labs and I put them in an Excel spreadsheet side by side. So then you could go and you could look at my creatinine level from 2008 to 2023 side by side. So then I go into my medical visits armed with a bunch of data. So I just don't seem like a person that's like, sometimes it feels like they think that I feel like that they think we're making stuff up. Or that's how I've been treated. Like I've had three doctors so far. Like when I go in for stuff, like at the end of the conversation, honey, you're depressed. And that's what's causing this symptom. So we need to get you on depression medicine. And then my first and ever ER visit was you have anxiety. Right. Yeah. So now like I have data. I have like, here's all the labs. You kind of have to listen to me at this point because I have a bunch of science backing that there's something going on, and this is not just me being depressed or anxious.
Right.
Thoughts, Carmen?
Yes. So, when you advocate for yourself, right? When you have the data, um, I think it is so helpful. So, and that will also kind of help you gauge what type of practitioner you're coming into an appointment with. So, if you take your information and they don't look at it, or they don't want to look at it, and they just run their own labs and not put it in the context of what your history looks like, um, they may not be the best one to give you the answers, because some doctors won't take the time to look at your history and to look at the data. But and there are some folks who, like, if you get your labs done at the same place over and over again, like, they will show you the trends. But sometimes if people compile it themselves with all of the results, sometimes you want to make sure you don't have any outliers, right? Like, so that you can see that trend. Because sometimes people will get labs drawn at like different labs over the years. So that's why it's really helpful to compile it all together. Um, I think that's fantastic because here's the thing, right? It's your labs, your imaging, right? That's data. Like they can't, um, you can't really deny that, right? That's part of your history. Um, versus some people aren't great historians. And so they'll start telling you what's going on. You start asking a lot of questions. And sometimes I don't always remember when that happened, or, how it unfolded. Now there's some, yeah, who write it all down and have a list of symptoms, a list of surgeries, a list of diagnosis. That helps to put that framework, right? That puts your question that you have today, it puts it in context,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just um, at face value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that is very helpful to come in with your own information. Now give them a little bit of time to process that information, because sometimes doctors aren't great at doing it on the fly, but that will, yeah, it's not necessarily help take you seriously, but it helps to understand, okay, this person's advocating for themselves, right? And there's a lot of respect there for that,
Mm-hmm.
or there should be, in
Yeah,
my
I was
opinion.
treated, I think, with more respect when I came in with that stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Now it is different if you come in with a pile of printed stuff that you like printed off of Google, right? Now that is different of something that you think that, that you've researched versus like your actual labs, your actual imaging, right? Like your information.
Mm-hmm.
And if the doctor's office asks for that information ahead of time, that's always a positive sign. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that they're willing to go through it and help to frame your questions and your concerns during the visit.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Another great thing I think is sometimes helpful to get your doctor to listen to you is to write down your questions, right? So oftentimes we do encourage people to write down questions, and sometimes that can get kind of lost in the shuffle. And so being prepared also helps the doctor to like set the framework with how they're going to use their time with your visit, right? And this is different per doctor, but most practitioners have an idea of how much time they're going to have in a visit. And so if you have your questions written down, and not just a chief concern, but things that you want to make sure and address, show that or share that early on, and that helps the practitioner make sure that they appropriately address everything, and you give them the time to do that. Yeah. So even if it's a short visit, even if it's a 15, 20-minute visit, they can still do that, or at least be honest with you. Right. And there may be some questions that may be linked together. And so instead of just kind of, rapid fire sharing it all, at 5 minutes, 10 minutes in, you still have, 5 more questions. They're not going to get answered if you didn't share with them up front.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yes. Yeah. Um, Also, if you so this one's a little bit tricky. So along the same line, so if you don't have labs and you don't have imaging, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go in with patterns, right? So like if you have a lot of symptoms and they seem kind of random, if you keep a symptom journal or a symptom log, right, that will help a practitioner see sort of the trends, how things change. If you have a tendency to like have a lot of dizziness in the morning, right, or nausea in the morning, but not the rest of the day, that can help us kind of tie things in together and kind of see those patterns. So even if you don't have quantitative data like labs, you can still write. I encourage people, do a symptom journal, right? If you don't feel well, your body's trying to tell us something, and if we're trying to get to the root cause, if it's like, okay, well, it's maybe digestion issues, but what are those digestion issues associated with it? Is it because you're eating eggs every morning and eggs make you nauseous, and you have a sensitivity to eggs, but you don't recognize it. Or is it something deeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can uh, help to also give things a little bit more context if you write down and keep sort of a symptom journal. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just another way of collecting data that doesn't have to be done with
Labs.
labs.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think like keeping in contact, I always like to look at them as businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Hospitals are
Oh,
businesses, doctors
they
are
are.
business owners, right? Or employees of a business. And
Yeah.
if we look at it that way, then how do you do business with the shoe store? How do you do business with Hobby Lobby or any business that you're doing business? Like how do you expect to be treated? You should still have that same expectation when you go to a doctor's office. Now, I'm not saying be an asshole, but I am
Mm-hmm.
saying like expect to be treated with respect
Yeah.
and someone to listen to you. There's no way you would go to Kohl's and somebody like didn't listen to you and you wouldn't say anything. You would be like, I need to speak to your manager. Like, this is not how I'm a customer, right? That's kind of how I approach it. And I always approach like if I'm meeting with a PCP for the first time, for me, I go into it like I'm interviewing you. Like,
Yeah.
is our personalities going to match? Are you going to listen to me? Or like, if I don't like you, I'm gonna go find someone else.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you're right. It is a business transaction, right?
Yeah.
We kind of have been taught to think of like the medical field and sort of medical um, transactions is a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
but there's still a service to be exchanged, right? There's still money, whether it's money out of your pocket or you paid an insurance company to pay this person, right? There's still a financial transaction and a certain level of expectations of service to be had.
Yeah.
And if you, don't get that, you need to say something. Yeah. If you, aren't comfortable with that, don't feel like you have to go back. Even
Mm-hmm.
if you're just doing on insurance, there are still a lot of options for PCPs and specialists. Yeah. Within insurances. Now, not to say it can't be tricky. So I have a gal who's been to 6 neurologists in the
That
state of
doesn't
Oklahoma.
surprise me at
Yeah.
all.
And she's been rejected by two people. She sent in her paperwork. They won't even see her because they don't think that she has a problem. But you sit with her, you talk to her, you see her episodes. There is a neurological issue happening. And nobody's necessarily willing to support her, right, to help her. So it can be very, kind of frustrating.
Uh-huh.
But I'm there's somebody out there who's gonna have, an answer. And
Yeah,
so
I mean, I think
it
about
may
like if
not
I was
be.
in that situation, if I was her, but again, I'm different. I know
Yeah,
I'm like
everybody is.
aggressive. If I was in that situation, then I would like kind of put it on my insurance a little bit. Like, look, I've been to these people. Like, you need to help me find another neurologist, whether that's out of state or someone
Yeah,
else. Like, I put
yeah,
it on them a little bit. I'm paying them too.
that's very true. Yeah. And if you're in a situation where you're like, maybe hopefully you're getting to a point to be more confrontational, to stand up for yourself and advocate for yourself.
Mhm.
If you're not there yet in your journey, have somebody advocate for you, whether
Mhm.
it's a friend, a parent, right? Somebody that you know who's in the medical field, who's like your next door neighbor who's a nurse. It doesn't matter. Like if you feel like you've kind of, the doctors are not listening to you, take an advocate with you.
Yeah.
A lot of places will have patient advocates. Hospitals have patient advocates. Larger medical practices do. And so if you feel like you don't, want to make a big fuss, but that you were disrespected or that you weren't listened to, ask. They will have a patient advocate, a patient liaison, a social worker, somebody, and that is their job, is to help to support you and be that bridge.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
not even saying like I'm not necessarily I think we get in our head that confrontation is like this like mean, aggressive, bitchy
Oh,
person,
no,
right?
that's not.
It's like
Yeah.
that's not even how I show up. I just show up direct. I am
Yeah.
kind, I am respectful, but I'm direct. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're not here to play around. Right?
Not when it's your
And
health
that
and your
doesn't have to
well-being.
be rude. It doesn't have,
Yeah.
you can still show up in integrity with you as a kind person. You're just direct.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Um, yeah. No, I totally agree. Um, you're it doesn't have to be a negative experience, right?
No.
Yeah. Um, but if you would like support in that, experience, and like just somebody kind of have your back, you feel like you're going up,
Yeah.
um, and trying to voice, your concerns or your situation from a disrespected experience, there are folks available to help you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't matter where you're at in your journey. If you, I know a lot of folks that, when they feel like the doctors don't listen to them, they just, they kind of feel like, okay, well, I don't have any more options.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's why I hope, like that we're encouraging folks that, oh, you always have options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It may not be the option they originally expected, but you always have
Yeah.
options. Yeah.
Yeah. So then like to summarize for people like how to get your doctor to listen. you have to be willing to advocate for yourself. Come in
Yeah.
prepared with your questions ahead of time. Let your doctor know at the beginning, like, here's my list of questions. If you have labs, compile them into a spreadsheet. Like, don't, I think if I was a doctor and someone came in and had 15 labs, like, I would be like, no. But if you came in with a spreadsheet with all of them side by side so I can read it much faster and easier, like, yes.
It's much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Than
would be
going
me.
through.
Yes.
Yes. All
Yeah.
these
Come
pages.
in prepared. Be willing to advocate for yourself. Know this is a business. Expect the same expectations how you would be treated
Yeah.
for any other business. And if you don't get the customer service or your answers, be willing to go find another doctor that would serve you in the way that you want to be treated.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anything else?
I think that's fantastic advice.
Okay. And if you don't have the personality like Kim, uh, get a buddy, get an advocate, someone that's in the field, take them with you, help them be your voice as well as you learn. I'm going to challenge you guys as you learn to become your own advocate.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yeah, great. Anything else, Carmen?
No.
All right. Have a great day, peeps.